We are in a strange situation where the legal framework seems to suggest that the getting high is somehow intrinsically wrong. I think medicine, so long as it remains one space, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it can really help people.
Using psychoactive drugs in medicine is not a new concept. In fact, they've been used for thousands of years all over the world. Even during World War I, cannabis was still being used as common medicine to treat everything from menstrual cramps to epilepsy. But on the 17th of June, 1971, President Richard Nixon gave this speech, which ultimately changed public opinion on a global scale.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
More than 50 years since he made that iconic speech, I'm left wondering what the impact of that prohibition has been on research and access to modern medicine. So, I'm going to find out. In the UK, medical cannabis was legalised in November 2018, but it hasn't really taken off. On the NHS, you're likely only to qualify for a prescription if you suffer with multiple sclerosis, are experiencing nausea or vomiting from chemotherapy, or you have a rare, severe form of epilepsy. You also have to have tried at least 2 other forms of treatment before cannabis can even be given to you as an option. There doesn't seem to be any consistency with who and how they are diagnosing. This is Ben Griffiths. Ben suffered brain damage at birth and was later diagnosed with severe epilepsy, cerebral palsy, and autism. But unfortunately, he does not qualify for medical cannabis on the NHS.
The way we see it is that the government changed the law in 2018 for people with exceptional circumstances like Ben, and it was the law was changed around children like Ben with very severe epilepsies. And yet, the children with very severe epilepsies then that campaigned and got behind these children have just been left behind. They haven't been able to access it.
Before medical cannabis, Ben could have up to 300 seizures a day. Now, some days he has none. Not only has cannabis reduced the number of seizures that Ben has, CBD also increases Ben's mobility, meaning that he can do normal little boy things like riding a bike or going bowling with his twin brother. So, cannabis was legalised in 2018 for medicinal use, so I was hoping you could tell me why it is we are seeing so few prescriptions on the NHS.
I think with cannabis, it's just sort of that added, there's a bit of stigma there. There's still a lot of unknowns about it. Or in terms of from the doctor's perspective anyway, and the NICE doesn't actually recommend its prescription on the NHS, so NICE obviously makes decisions based on what the cost effectiveness and the evidence and safety of the drugs, and it hasn't as yet recommended cannabis for NHS prescription, apart from in sort of 3 specific conditions.
Next, I'm meeting up with Helen, who initially started out as self-medicating with illicit cannabis, but has since been prescribed it privately. Helen has complex PTSD, fibromyalgia, and Crohn's disease. Before she discovered medical cannabis, she was on a whopping 70 pills a day, including some very strong opioid medications, which she did actually become addicted to. So how did these medical professionals take you disclosing the fact that you were using alternative illicit medicines?
She just immediately removed my psychiatric care and told me that they would not pursue any further care with me until I completed an outpatient rehab program.
There's a lot of evidence to suggest that it can really help people. And so on a kind of almost human rights level, I do think that ought to happen, yeah. But on a level of cognitive liberty, i.e. that every person should have the freedom to experiment with their consciousness, so long as they're not endangering others, then I also think that they should have a wider access